That's right. And that's one of the things that I look at when we, as investors, I mentioned to somebody yesterday that we're running into the burning building while everybody else is running out. But the interesting thing is that maybe the building is only smoking. Maybe Randall was cooking macaroni and cheese, and he doesn't cook very often, and he tends to get distracted. And even though his wife has banned him from the kitchen, she wasn't home, and he was hungry, and it caught on fire because he went outside to play with the dog and forgot that he was cooking it. So probably not a real serious fire, right? Just a lot of smoke. So that's what's happening in this market right now. We met with a couple of appraisers who have spent 10 years writing a program, over 1 million lines of code, to analyze the market, to look at properties, and actually in all of the counties in Utah. And we spent a couple hours with them, and the inventory is down. Did I hear something?
Yeah, did you go get the game? Yeah,
all right, whoever that is, take their cell phone and stomp on it. I thought it was a question, but okay. So the inventory is down. In a lot of areas, it's down to 2.5 months, okay? That is a really good market. In fact, a lot of the houses that are, Lonnie?
Oh, I just, with the whole inventory down thing, I was talking to a couple of friends who work a lot of REO properties, and the REO properties are significantly down.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got, I mean, there's just, it's a great time. Stuff is moving. Things are selling fast, yes.
Do we know, are there properties like sitting on the books of banks that are just sitting there? That
shadow inventory, great question. Okay.
Yes.
I have people ask me all the time, what is the shadow inventory situation in Utah? Personally, I don't think there is any. And I think that if there is, it's by our local banks. It could be a credit union. You know, local Mountain America might be sitting on 1 or 2, $1 billion to $5 million properties that they haven't been able to move. But when I moved here originally in 1988, there were 500 homes in Salt Lake City proper that were boarded up. And that means there was plywood on the doors, there was plywood on the windows. And they were boarded because they weren't selling at any price. I can remember walking down to Zion's Bank and talking with one of their asset managers. And he gave me a list of like 50 properties under $30,000. And he said, yeah, take a look at any one of these, make me an offer. And so this is not as bad as it was then. And it is diminishing. A lot of the big houses that have been sitting empty for a long time. Out in Harriman, for example, there's probably 50 to 75 homes in various stages of completion or construction. They're all done. I mean, they're all gone. They're not there anymore. Looking at one time, we were out 11, 12, I think even 18 months, and in one area it was like 22 months. That has contracted considerably. Okay. I don't see shadow inventory as what you're saying is that maybe the market starts looking like it's doing really good, the banks start throwing more properties on, and then the market starts tanking again. I don't see that happening. We've got probably close to 100 short sales. I mean, shadow inventory comes through a process. Most of those, is that a credit card on the floor there? Somebody dropped one. It looks like Laura Stout. I don't know her. So that looks like it's probably your wife there, Tom. So anyway, what happens is that the property goes into foreclosure. If the person has any brains, they'll try to work a short sale on the property and sell the property as a short sale. If it doesn't sell it as a short sale and it goes to auction, or they do nothing and it goes to auction, then that property gets picked up by the lender and sent to an asset manager or an REO agent here in the area. We've got one of the largest REO agents is actually with Equity, Tuano. I'm not even going to try to butcher his last name. But it says Malakaya or something. Yeah, well, Buddy's not here, so, sorry. Never like to butcher anybody's name. But they are, from what we've seen, they're going right from auction to the asset manager. The ones that we have that did make it on a short sale, I had one last week, went right within a week's time, went from being a short sale property. The seller did not comply with providing all the documentation, so it was taken back by the bank. And the real estate agent was contacting me within 10 days to list the property. So there could be something out there, but in Utah, I don't think it's significant. Now, I was back in Missouri, Kansas City, some of those areas, yeah, there's all kinds of inventory. Detroit, there's a lot of inventory because stuff's not moving at any price.
Right.
And so I can see that happening there. But in this market, we've got a lot of things going for us. Salt Lake County, what's the median age in Salt Lake County? You're close. That's the median age for the state. So you're almost there. 26. 26 is the median age in Salt Lake County. What is it in Utah County?
22.
22. Okay. What does that mean? We've got a lot of kids, right? And what state in the nation has the highest birth rate? So if we do nothing, I guess we can breed ourselves into success here. So we can change the market one baby at a time. And I heard that the Duggar family is going to be up to 20 kids now. I heard that on the news the other day that she's expecting her 20th. So I had a cousin that had 16. I thought they were nuts. I don't know what I do with 20, but yeah. So the market is improving. Let's talk about finding property. How many of you are agents here? Agent trader. We got a lot of hands. All right. Agents, I'm not going to offend. I am probably going to offend you, but I'm an agent too. So I have to do this at least once a year. I have to go over ways to find property without agents. Now, before I go into that, what I'd like to say is you need to have an agent help you in your business somewhere. Chad, are you an agent?
No.
Who's the agent you work with?
My wife's the agent.
His wife is the agent, okay? So that's something that helps. Who do you work with? You have an agent you work with all the time, Matt.
Lonnie Jewett, or anyone that brings them good opportunity.
Anybody that brings you a deal. And we do the same thing. I'm an agent. Everybody in my office are agents almost. Dustin's training to be an agent over there. And we use whoever brings us a deal. Now, that's significant because using an agent or working with a competent agent is going to allow you to work in more than one area. Who knows what Hoffman Heights is? Okay, Matt, give us a rough geographical outline of Hoffman Heights.
40th West to like 48th West and 47th South to 5400 South.
Okay. Now that area is very homogenic, is that right? All the houses are about the same. There's two sides, 1100 and something and 14 something in that area. Does anybody know why that is?
All World War II left over from the munitions factory and transportation people that was out there on the railroad.
Government housing.
Government
Okay.
housing.
And so they built two sides, officers' quarters and enlisted. Or I'm just guessing, but having been in the military, that's generally how it works. So it's the same. Now, if you're an investor and you're not working with an agent, you're going to be limited to Hoffman Heights or an area like that, which isn't always a bad thing. But the problem that you run into is it's good in the sense that you know what your parameters are and you know what the houses are worth. What's a good deal, more or less, in Hoffman Heights, Matt?
58 to 65.
58 to 65. And sales point?
100 to 115.
100 to 115. Okay. So you can do that. You don't need to be an agent to be there. If somebody comes to you and says, "I've got a house for $50,000," would you look at it?
I'd run to it.
You would run. Okay. So that would be a good thing. But if you're moving outside of a real homogeneous area like that, you need to have an agent or somebody who's going to be able to review your transactions, to pull comps. An appraiser would work as well. You could use an appraiser, but agents are usually cheaper. and you need somebody to evaluate whether it's a deal or not. Now, before I get into this, let me talk a little bit about some of the ways that we evaluate deals. Now, you've heard me talk before about 80% of after repair or after remodel value, correct? Minus repair costs is the maximum that we want to pay for a property. That's one way to quickly evaluate a property. Here's another one. I went back, Josh and I have gone back. We're always looking over old data. Josh, wave your hand up there. Josh is the master of tracking things. And he's very sharp individual. In fact, I have the idea, we put it together, and he's the one to make sure that it works. And so he's very, very sharp. But we looked at these numbers, and we realized that if we had our good deals were about a $40 spread between the purchase price
40K.
and, well, no, not $40K, $40 per square foot, between the purchase price and the ARV, after repaired value, price of the property, after we remodeled it and sold it. Now, we sold those, I think our highest end that we tracked was about $75 spread. You could still make money at 39, 38 was getting a little sketchy. I think those were deals that we weren't real proud of. They were just $15,000 or something like that. But we started looking at it and said, all right, so let's figure out what we're going to sell it for. So we pull up the comps and we say, all right, what is sold on the market in the last 120 days that's been remodeled in this area? Okay. This is what's sold. What is the average price per square foot? Sometimes it's real easy to see because it's just a real common average. Sometimes you have one that's like $150 more and maybe $80 less, and so throw out the top, throw out the bottom, and average the middle. But it's pretty easy to determine what the price per square foot is on a property when it's remodeled and ready to sell. So how is that helpful? What can I do with that?
Data.
Get you a filter, okay? So I can take that. So if the after repaired value of a property is, this is going to be really good, by the way, but, and I think it's going to be probably in the 200 range, between 200 and 300, I think we have to get that up. But basically, let's say we've got, okay, $100 a square foot. All right, that's our after repaired value. All right. At $40 a square foot, off of that spread, I'm looking at purchasing at $60 a square foot. Anything that I can get for less than that is just frosting. Okay. We've got one that we've done a couple of these that we had every time I think it's the lowest price I've ever paid per square foot, I find another one. In fact, Jorge went out with us, and we paid $20 a square foot for this house. I think we're going to sell it for 73, something like that. Our ARV was $50. Bought it at $43,000, selling it $150, and it's 2104. Is that right? I think it's somewhere 2104, 2,100 square feet, somewhere in that area. But it makes it very easy for me to look at and say that's something that an agent could help you with. Go figure out what remodeled property is selling for. So agents, if you find something that looks really good and it looks like it's got a spread that's at least 40, please call me. Call.
This is just sort of ignoring repair costs or saying average repair costs.
Yeah. This is ignoring repair costs.
I mean, not ignoring, but just more or less average.
It's a pretty good formula, but it's not. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to go buy that.
I wouldn't buy that sight unseen, but I would run out there and look at it.
It's a good flag.
Yeah, it's a good flag. It says, all right, if this has normal repairs, so if we're going to say it's going to sell for $200 to $250, $45,000 to $50,000 in repairs, typically it works. And it's worked for us on, we ran most of our transactions this year through it, some from last year.
It ranged from $120,000 ARVs to $320, and it worked for all of them.
Yeah.
The one thing I found is if you have a house that for whatever reason has a ton of repairs, that's not normal for the square footage, then the formula is going to be off a little bit.
Or it's ugly.
But that one's a little bit better than the 80/20.
Yeah.
80 minus.
It's just a quick way to do it.
Just a quick.
Yeah, some uglies are uncurable. It's sad. Somebody sent me a house in a really good neighborhood on the east side. I look at this, but I don't know if it has any street appeal. So I pulled it up and looked at it, and it's 0.13 acres. The house is 2,700 square feet. Now, it's got a mansard roof on it, but not only does it have a mansard roof, it's got like the mansard sides down all four sides of the house. And so it's got shingles coming all the way down to the floor. And I'm not talking wood shingles and cute stuff. I'm talking ugly asphalt shingles and a flat roof and no garage and no carport and no room to put either one of those. So I looked at that and I thought that ugly is uncurable. I mean, it would cost so much to fix that we wouldn't make any money out of. So anyway, that's where an agent can help us.
Where's that house?
Where's I've got it on an email, so.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really ugly. All right, let's move on. Okay, the number one way to find property for anybody is networking. Okay? Somebody brings you a deal. Matt, if Pete McCoy calls you and says, I've got a deal for you, Matt, is that worth looking at?
Yeah.
You know, because you know Pete. If you call me and say, hey, Randall, here's something that's worth looking at, I'm going to pay attention. We all listen to our friends. All of us know at least 250 people. You talk to a catering company, I've got friends that work in catering, they figure 250 guests for the bride, 250 for the groom. Okay. Funeral director says the same thing, 250 people. You know, if the guy died, we know at least 250 people will show up to the viewing or show up to the funeral. That's a typical number. So we all know 250 people. We all like our friends. We all pay attention to people we know more than somebody else. And so this is the number one way to find property. So you're out there walking around and Aunt Betty says, you're over at Aunt Betty's house because she makes really good sugar cookies. And you're eating a cookie and Aunt Betty says, you know, Ethel across the street is losing her house, the poor woman. You know, her husband's died. She just, you know, she can't work anymore, can't keep up with the payments. I don't know what she's going to do. What's that? Opportunity is just knocked. Okay? Now, Aunt Betty obviously knows who Ethel is, and they're good friends. They probably eaten sugar cookies together for years. So that is the opportunity you're looking for, is to have Aunt Betty take you across the street and talk to Ethel and see if there's a way that you can help her and at the same time create some opportunity as well for yourself. So networking, number one way. I have my favorite way to find property is somebody brings me one. Agents bring property to me all the time. I have investors bring property to me. That's my very favorite way to do it. And it's awesome. It's our lady Ace up here. She's up there at the top, Leslie Fink. She's very active finding good property. In fact, you need to talk to Josh about that property in Davis County with Casella Financing. He's looking for a horse-type property. So, all right. Number two, direct mail. Who's done direct mail? Okay. What are your success ratios in direct mail? Anybody have an idea?
1% response rate.
1% response rate, 2%? Okay, yeah, it can't be that. And foreclosure and short sale, probably 0.15 of 1%. You know, it's that have, I'd say, decent leads. We've had higher response rates, but that usually ended up with you running out to everybody's house and not signing any deals. I had one of my agents called me up and he says, I'm trying to be an investor and find property. I'm sending out 10,000 letters a month. I'm going on 50 visits a month. I was like, great, that's great. 50 visits a month. I said, how long have you done it? I've been doing it for 3 months. Great. How many do you have under contract? Well, I don't have any. So his marketing was good as far as getting interest and having him come and talk to him about buying their house for full price and so forth, whatever his marketing said. And it wasn't real good at screening or qualifying his people that he wanted to work with. And so that's why I say it's important to get out there and make sure that your marketing is reflective of what you're offering. You want to speak to what people are concerned about. A few years ago, there was a lot of different fear. It was more of a social stigma to be in foreclosure. Now it's almost a badge of honor. Oh, I lived in a $5 million house free for 18 months. At that time, we would send out mailers that said, avoid the embarrassment, sell your house with dignity. So you always want to tune into that. That's important. You can use direct mail. If you're using postcards, this is a postcard. Here I've got all kinds of large postcards, but those can be mailed bulk mail. That's a cheap way to do it. You got to go take a little class and pay about $100 for a bulk mail permit. That'll save you probably 30–40% on your mailing rates. And I send out, I think that's an 8 by 11 dozen, something like that. Roughly. Yeah, it's an oversized postcard. We use some of those. But there is no holy grail, and that's the thing that I want to tell you. There's no holy grail. People say, what is the best way to find property? Well, other than networking, I don't know. You got to meet a lot of places a lot of the time. If we're talking about wholesale, what's the best wholesale deal that you've ever done? And I started to think, I've had one at Kensington, I think had about an $81,000 spread. I had one that I got from Chad, I think we made 68 on by the time it was done. Those are good deals. Now, if I was up here selling a product, I'd say, yeah, you can make $80,000 on wholesale. Or, yeah, you can make $68,000 and hardly have to work because somebody else brought me the property and I turned around and sold it to somebody else that I did. But that's really not reflective of reality. Okay? That's how people separate fools from their hard-earned cash. That is something that happens to me, happens to us probably once a year. Once a year, we'll get a wholesale deal that comes in and we'll make $50,000 to $80,000. About once a year. That's about it. And that's what doing a lot of marketing. You got to be in a lot of places a lot of the time. It's kind of like dating. There you are, you're a young man, fresh out of high school. You got to maximize your time. So, you're going swimming in the afternoon with Sally, and you're going to dinner with Susie, and if you're really lucky, you might hit the Rocky Horror Picture Show at 11:30 with Jenny May. Finish off the evening. And that works pretty well as long as you can keep their names straight. So that's what we need to do. It'd be a lot of places, a lot of the time. And it works pretty well for a while, but pretty soon, if you're swimming in the same pool of people, they start knowing, oh yeah, this is Randall. Oh yeah, what? He went out with you for lunch? Oh, we went to the movies together. And it dries up after that. So. But it's important to be a lot of places, a lot of time. So let's talk about number 3, driving for dollars. I kind of like driving for dollars. Driving for dollars is very useful. Basically what you do is you take an area that's an area that you would like to invest in. It's an area that you can define like Hoffman Heights. Maybe it's 13th South to 21st South, 3rd East to 7th East. It's easily definable. And you know that remodeled houses are selling at a premium in that area. It's almost like the Harvard-Yale areas crept down the hill and crossed 7th East, it seems like at times. So what am I looking for when I'm driving for dollars? Any ideas? What was the...
Actually, wrong.
Distressed properties.
Yes. Yeah, like dried up grass, that you said, yeah, dried up grass is great.
For sale by owners.
For sale by owner.
Boarded up properties.
Boarded up properties. What about roofs? Poor roofs that look like they're leaking. That's usually a good thing too. And if they've got a car that's, Billy Bob's got 2 or 3 cars out in the front yard, that's nice. I bought one in that area that had 8 cars on it. Yeah, 8 cars on the lawn. It was more car than lawn. But guy had cars and I got a screaming deal on that house, but we had to promise to take care of the cars because he didn't want to take them with him. So very small. If you notice that the yards in that area are pretty small, you're talking 0.10, 0.13 acres. 8 cars was amazing that he could fit them all in there.
Kidney Foundation.
Rental signs are good too.
Rental signs. Yeah, show me a landlord. I'll show you somebody who's thought about selling at one time or another. Absolutely, that's a good point. You thought about selling occasionally, Matt?
Yeah, not for a while though.
Hey, attorneys, we got any attorneys here? No hands put up there? Attorneys can be a good source for finding property. What happens, what do we do with attorneys? We've got bankruptcy, right? Bankruptcy attorneys. What frequently happens in bankruptcy? Liquidation of assets. Homes can be those assets. We've bought a number of homes out of bankruptcy or bankruptcy liquidation. And actually, it's quite simple. We call our attorney, we make an offer on the property, we justify the offer's value. He takes it before the judge, and the judge signs off on it. He gives us approval to purchase the property, so that we're not encumbered by the bankruptcy, and we're able to buy that property and remodel it, or buy it and sell it, do whatever we need to. What about family law attorneys? How many people get divorced on average in Utah? 50%, same as everywhere else. Well, it's pretty hard to live in 2 places at one time. Can't do that. So somebody's leaving, and frequently the person that's leaving makes it so that it's very difficult for the person that's staying to keep their home. And they need to do something with it. What do we call that? Opportunity. Okay, that's what we're looking for. It's amazing to me how few people will work with attorneys or talk to attorneys. There's all kinds of, we bought properties from attorneys that have been, what do they call it, trustee, where they're trying to settle an estate out. Probate attorneys. Yes, probate. Whoever said that, thank you. Probate attorneys. Now that didn't work out real well for us, but we got 2 or 3 properties that way. So probably it has to do with being a lot of places with a lot of attorneys a lot of the time.
Are you contacting the attorney for a specific property, or are you getting leads from the attorney?
That was contacting the attorney for any properties that they might have, and consistently reminding them that you're happy to pay them to close the property.
So it's not a conflict of interest to them?
No, they're not making any money on it other than handling the legal work. So that brings up another point. There's all kinds of other attorneys as well. In fact, if you go to, sometimes you can hang out at justice court or where evictions happen. I knew one guy in another city that would hang out at the eviction court and wait for landlords to come out and approach them about buying the property. And he said that was good for about 1 a month. So I haven't ever tried that here in Utah, but that can be a good thing. And we want to motivate the attorney. Now, sometimes the attorney's just going to give him your card because he's a good guy. Okay. Sometimes the attorneys, all attorneys can close property. They can write title insurance or give title insurance to an underwriter, etc. Sometimes they'll want to do that. Sometimes they'll just say, hey, you know, go ahead and handle this for my clients. I've had that happen as much as anything, I think. I think we had one where the guy wanted to close the property. I was fine. He made an extra $1,500 by closing the property. But a lot of times they just want somebody dependable that they can send their client to. So for agents, that's probably a good thing too. So that's important. Okay. 5, salons.
Wow.
All right. Does that come out? That's kind of probably hard to see. Hopefully you can see that there's a lot of hair going on there. All right. This is not for you men unless you're a little bit like that. That's okay.
Wait, Yoshi works at a salon.
Yoshi did, right? Yeah, well, it's I don't know. It's like I don't know. But did you work at a women's hair salon, Yoshi?
I worked in Mid-House Sassoon for 10 years in New York City.
You're awesome. All right, so you're the exception. My wife's last 3 hairdressers have been gay.
Okay.
So, based upon my limited experience. But here's the thing. Here, it comes down to this is real simple. If somebody's cutting your hair, what are they doing to you or with you? Talking. And they're touching you. Right? It's kind of hard to cut somebody's hair without touching them. Kind of hard to do the nails without touching the hands, right? Okay, they're touching you. What does that create?
Trust.
Or? A relationship?
Trust.
Trust. That was the word I was looking for. I don't let anybody touch me that I don't at least trust to a certain degree. Okay. Now, if it happens to be one of those salons where you go in and get a haircut and they show you the back room, you get kind of naked under a towel. Well, it's not that kind of story, right? And then they put the hot rocks, what do they call that? They put the hot rocks under your spine. I don't know, you get stoned basically. But in a good way. Take you to the back room and they stone you. Okay? And they get that massage, the neck massage and everything else. I'm ready to tell them anything they want to hear by the time 15 minutes of that is done. It's, whatever, my life story. Okay? That is something that I learned in Oregon, in a little town. The hairdressers knew everything about everybody. Judy Wynn was a good friend of mine. Her son and I hung out together. Her husband and I did business together. But she knew everything about everybody. If I needed to know who was looking for a house, I talked to Judy. She was the popular hairdresser in town. If I needed to know who was losing their house, I talked to Judy. Hairdressers, hairstylists, nail salons, they know everything. I've got 2 of my agents that are Asians, which is kind of cliche, but they both work in nail salons. And they feed their entire real estate business from their nail salon. Just talking, oh, you're looking to sell your house. Great, talk to anybody that you trust. I can help you with that. And where are you moving to, by the way? I can probably help you with that too. So do not underestimate salons. That's one that I have rarely heard. A couple of investors that were well seasoned back in the Midwest told me that they'd done the same thing, as made good contacts with a few of the salons in the area. It's amazing what you can do. I mean, Yoshi, I'm sure you knew about people's marital troubles and everything else, didn't you?
Oh, I knew when people went gray in places that I never thought I'd know they'd go gray. They told me everything.
They tell you everything. They just do it.
Where do you go gray?
And that's it, So there's one that you can take to the bank. So all of you lady investors, the next time you're out getting a mani, I guess, the pedicure, manicure type of deal, bring up the subject of real estate. Hey, who do you know that is looking to sell a house or needs to sell a property? Do you know anybody? Or bring up just bring up the conversation. I'm a real estate investor. I'm looking to buy property. Most of what we buy is distressed property or people that need to sell the property fast. Who do you know? Now, if somebody brought me, from Vidal Sassoon, could I get a haircut for $500 there?
I was $150.
Okay.
The most expensive was $180, I think.
$180.
But that was 20 years. That was a while ago. So you probably can get something close to that.
I'm gonna have to have a talk with my wife. I thought it was $500 every time they went for a color or such. All right. Well, if Yoshi brought me a deal, I'd say, hey, Yosh, send me some business. If you send me some business and I buy this property, I'm going to give, I'm gonna give your clients a $500, I'm gonna buy a $500 gift card from you, from Udalisa. And you guys sell gift cards, I'm assuming. Perfect, so there's $500, and you can do that. You can't do that if you're an agent, but if you're an agent, you can use the broker inducement rule, so there's a way around that too. But see me later, we'll talk about it. But if you're not an agent, you're not licensed, you can't offer a premium. It is something that I would do to get their business, so why not? I mean, I tell the nail lady, heck, I'll pay for, you know, how much are nails? A year's worth of nails if it's a really good deal. But a year's worth of nails if you send me some business. Send some business to me and I'll send it right back to you. I'll use your business, I'll buy gift cards. I mean, that's something that everybody can do. Okay. And bandit signs. Why do you think we see all these signs that say, we buy houses? Because they work? Who has used bandit signs? Who's got a deal from a bandit sign? Now, I'm not going into the legalities or specifics or anything else, but this is one way to be a lot of places a lot of the time. Now, when Chris wanted to marry my daughter, I hired him and made sure that he was a hard worker. And so every Monday morning at 4 o'clock, he would run out and pick up all our signs. And every Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock, he would be out pounding about 500 signs out on major thoroughfares. And we actually only got in trouble maybe a couple of times. We had a city or somebody call us. So we would throw them all up on Friday afternoon and take them all down Monday. And you lose about 10% each time we did that, but you're always putting new signs up. So for whatever it's worth, bandit signs do work. Yes?
Why at 2 o'clock on Friday? Why not all week?
That's a good question. Well, because if I left it up all week, there's two things. One is if it's all week, it gives the city, the compliance officers, more time to contact me and try to find me, you know, $50 a sign or something. And they threaten to fine you these ungodly amounts, but I don't think I've ever paid more than $50 total. The second one is I ran for office back when I was a Republican. Now I'm a conservative Democrat, but I ran for office. And I was actually a secretary-treasurer in our area for the Republican Party. And one of the classes that they sent us to said, if you're running for office, the best way to get the biggest bang out of your signs is to throw them all up in one day. So that's what we would do. So every Friday we'd throw them all up, because otherwise it's like the billboards that you see when you go down I-15, unless there's something really grabbing. Like there was a long time ago, was the Coke billboard with the girl on the surfboard. I know I noticed that every time I drove to my high school. It was like back in the 70s, but so it might be a little bit dated for you guys. But that one I would notice. But most of the time, I'm lucky if I see them one time because my eyes just go right over them. It's the same one I've seen for the last 3 weeks, last 13 days, the last however long it's been. So that's why we would throw them up and take them down. Saved us problems with compliance, and it was more noticeable because all of a sudden you've got 500 yellow signs, or ours were red, white, and blue, out there saying we buy houses, and so people would look, you'd get a few calls, and go from there. So that's something that's important. And you can buy those, you can do them yourself. We actually did our own screens for doing it ourselves. It's pretty cheap if you got somebody that likes to get their fingers dirty. I kind of like to try something new occasionally and then delegate it to somebody else. But I've seen them for as cheap as $1 or $2 a sign for smaller signs. So.
Do you ever put your own signs up on the properties that you're rehabbing, say we buy?
I have never done that. Well, in my house, the signs, I've never done that, but I know Sean Mitchell and Ben Mitchell do that. Somebody else say that they've done that?
I know another investor does that.
Yeah, that could be good.
But you just have to be careful if you're doing that to pull permits, like, or if you're advertising and it's like late in your investor use, because then you're kind of, especially in this timing right now, the city's really trying to go after permits and stuff.
Yeah, if you're in Sandy, They say Sandy is the #1 revenue generator by fees in the state. There's more police there than anywhere else. I noticed we've got building inspectors coming up and down. We had one project where we actually had one come up, and I just don't let them on the property, so they know. But if they can see anything, it causes problems. So that's why I've never done it on my own property. If I had a rental, I might do that if I could get away with it, depending on what the city codes. What's that?
What do you do? We didn't hear what we're talking about.
Putting the signs on your own property. You asked, would you put signs on your property while you're rehabbing? And I agree with Matt. I'm trying to keep it quiet.
Did you say you don't let them on the property, or you do let them on the property?
I do not let them on the property. Yeah, no, I don't. And my wife is so well trained that we had some compliance people from the county show up at my house. I'll make this really quick, but we live on Dimple Canyon, and there's a lot of brush. It's like 4 feet high, and several of my neighbors, there's a lot of kids in that area too. So fireworks go off, or kids are out camping or something, and you've got fires everywhere. It's rare to walk up and down the canyon more than a few hundred yards from where I live and not see some black burn spots. So I thought, great, goats. Goats sound, it's green, we'll throw some goats back there, and that'll be great. So I called the county said call the city. I called the city, talked to one of the city councilman. He said, oh yeah, no problem. So I threw the goats back there, and somebody didn't like that, so they sent in an anonymous complaint to Salt Lake County, who called me, and I said, well, I'm not admitting anything, but you guys told me to talk to the city. They said, well, we were wrong. We handle all stuff along the canyon. So, to make a long story short, somebody showed up at the house and said, hey, we just want to look back there and take some pictures. My wife said, not without a warrant. Not without a warrant. And they know I've talked with them and dealt with them, and I like them. They're nice people. In fact, they said that if it happened again in the future, or I want to do it in the future, that I'd get at least, I think, 5 weeks before I'd have to get rid of anything. So that's usually enough to take care of my weed problems. But I just told them, I said, look, my attorney's telling me that it's a violation of Fourth Amendment rights, against unlawful search and seizure. Unless you've got a neighbor, because I always say, if one of your neighbors complained, bull crap. I've helped build additions on both of my neighbors. There's no way they're speaking about anything. I know where the bodies are buried. But I just said, well, unless you can put a name to it, get a warrant, you guys aren't, you're just not coming on. Come over for dinner sometime, great. But in your official capacity, that's not happening. And then we're just very clear about that. Okay, internet ads. Who's ever used pay-per-click? A few people have used pay-per-click, that's good. That is the only way that you can get to the top of the heap here on Google. This is what they call organic, where somebody has a website, and I put in, I think, we buy houses or something, or we're buying houses. It is really hard to get to the top of the list organically. It takes time and money. Now, I've had people sell me SEO as a search engine optimization, which is great, but they always show you some site that's for something like pink boxing gloves. Okay, pinkboxinggloves.com. Look, we're at the top of the search engine. Or gaypartyfavors.com was another one. And that's great. But I know that when we started doing the foreclosure deal back in '04, I was paying 35 cents for a stop foreclosure that put me up in the top there. 35 cents. And then I told Chad, and then I told John Long, and then I told about 20 other people. And within about a year, I was up to 11 bucks a click. At that time, I was thinking, it's really not that good. And so we had to find something else. But there's a lot of opportunity with pay-per-click, because you can figure there's those people that are so sad that they're in their cup. They're drinking, they're crying into their beer, and and they're on the internet, slop foreclosure. Okay? My cousin did about 20 of those that were offshoots of misspellings and that. Those were still 35 cents. And it's funny, but you'll get more that way. I mean, you'll get a lot more clicks than you would think from using misspelled words and trying to think like a sad, crying, drunk person. It's really hard, but that's something that's you can do as well. And it can be very cheap, and you can do it on Facebook. We've done some Facebook ads as well. And the nice thing about that is there's a good and a downside. I'll tell you the downside is if you don't set limits and you got tied up to your credit card or bank account, you can spend a lot of money. A lot of money, more than you want to. Okay? So always set limits. That's the good side, is you can set limits. You can set a limit for $10 a day, or a certain amount per week, etc. You can break it out and set the limits on the amount that you want to spend using pay-per-click type advertising. Google controls about 49% of the market. The next highest is Yahoo with, I think it's 26%, followed by MSN. Sometimes using Bing and some of these other smaller places, if you could put an ad there somehow, may be useful because most people are going on Google. Okay. KSL and Craigslist. Who has looked at for property on KSL or Craigslist? Who has advertised property on KSL or Craigslist? Why do we do that?
Different exposure.
It works, different exposure, and it's free. Okay? Who was here when I talked about selling a lifestyle? We don't sell homes, we sell lifestyle. Okay? We have got more traction off of Craigslist and KSL than almost anything else. And it's usually from out-of-town buyers. Now they're looking for out-of-town. They know they're moving to Utah. They want the millionaire lifestyle. They need the private forest, 3 trees in the backyard. They want that. Okay? And so I know that KSL is a good place to start, but so is Craigslist. But I never do one without the other. It just makes sense. And over here, let's see, over here you can, in this area, for starting out around, I think they've got different budgets, but they're around $200 to $250 a month. You can actually get an ad placed over here.
It's pretty affordable for what?
Yeah, it's fairly affordable. And I go to, here's something you can do. Like when I have one created, I go to elance.com. So anytime I need something done in Flash or something computer oriented like that, I go to Elance. Rent-A-Coder is another place that you could go to. But the reason I go there is it's cheap and it's effective. And do I care if it's somebody in India or Pakistan that's creating my Flash ad as long as it's good? I don't. I do care that it's going to cost me about $200 to have them create it, about $2,000 to have somebody here in town do it. Sorry, I don't always buy local. I try, but it's just the price has got to be there, so that's important. Okay. Billboards, number 9. Billboards can be good or bad. If you're trying to get one on I-15, you're going to spend big bucks. The Ugly Buys Ugly Houses billboards, those guys spend a lot of money. That's the Home Investors franchise. And their advertising budget is, so I think it's about $20,000 a month in this area. There's usually a couple of people that pay into that, so you have to generate a lot of return. I can tell you that that is not something that works real well because I'm really good friends with the local Home Investors guys. But in smaller areas, billboards can be very effective. In Ogden, you can get billboards really cheap. We're talking a couple $100. Utah County, they're considerably cheaper. Now, if you're doing business out in Willa, for example, or Erda or any of those surrounding areas, you can find billboard space as little as $150 a month. Anybody ever been to Eagle, Idaho, just up from Boise, between Boise and Ontario, Oregon? Yeah, I've seen billboards up there for $150 a month. there's a lot of people that commute into town to work in Boise. So
Well, that
those
works.
areas that can be really
That works if you're selling houses in Eagle, Idaho.
Yeah, or down here, and you're doing it up north, and out in other outlying areas. I-15 is the expensive one, but you can find them for, we used to sublet billboards. Who's that free capitalist guy? He was into us for a
Rick Kerber.
Yeah, he was into us for a lot of money, stopped paying on their billboards down in Utah County. We were the ones that actually sublet those billboards to him. But the Franklin Squires, I think is what.
Yeah, Rick Kerber, Franklin Squire.
Yeah. So that's something you can do. If you're out there on the west side, you can find billboards that are not as high traffic, but if you're the only game in town, you know, that's still a good game to be in. Also, when you're doing a billboard, don't look for a work of art. Now, work of art's pretty good for this. I'm gonna borrow this. I don't know what this is. Yeah, thanks, Tom. That's pretty, right? Okay. And for a landscaping guy, that's what you want to see. Green lawns, beautiful trees, you know, everything that you would expect. However, if I was driving down the road at 65 miles an hour, maybe running across the road, it's kind of hard to see, isn't it? I mean, what message do you get there, okay? You don't. So, having created some luscious, beautiful advertising in the past and having it go almost absolutely nowhere, I can tell you that something that gets seen is better than something that's beautiful, that's a work of art that you paid some designer, you know, $1,000 to do. Ask me how I know. You want to be seen. So here, let me give you a couple of tips. One is nothing is more visible than a bumblebee, bandit sign, or billboard. Little Caesars, what color are their billboards? Orange and black. Do you notice those? Can you see them from like a mile away? Okay, that's kind of a, I don't know what that might be, an English bumblebee, maybe they're orange and black. But yellow and black works real well. Orange, black, stuff that's just simple. It's two colors, it's real simple. You want to limit your message because people have about 10 seconds to look up that message and get interest. So limit your message to just a couple of lines and a contact point. If you can draw a circle or an oval around something, studies have shown that the eye is automatically attracted to circles or circle type structures in that, on advertising. So that's just a quick hint that might give you something to work with if you do end up doing a billboard or even your bandit signs. All right, and number 10, radio and television. Do you want to hit that, see that quick sauce there?
This is you and your business. While your current customers know that your business is outstanding, to prospective customers, your business appears like one of many. Wouldn't it be nice to make your business stand out and affordably reach your target customers? Now you can. With SpotMixer, you can easily create a video ad for your business and run it online or on TV. Get big exposure without a big budget. Video lets you speak directly to customers. Plus, it performs better than display and text ads. And with SpotMixer, you can get started in just 3 simple steps. Create a video, target your audience, and then run your ad. First, create your video easily and quickly at spotmixer.com. Then select the target audience you want to reach. Now you're ready to run your video ad online. Just set your daily budget and SpotMixer takes care of the rest. Or you can get a TV-ready ad. SpotMixer videos are always professional quality and unique, never canned. Plus, we provide reporting so you can track how your ad is working.
Okay, so there actually are some good points there about making yourself stand out, about targeting your market by geographical location, by whoever it is, men, women, people in default, people that are out of area, estate sales. Estate sales are a great way to pick up property as well, but you can create something for almost nothing online. You can set a budget as low as $10 a day. You can advertise in a lot of places fairly cheaply, late night television. How many people do we have here that speak Spanish? We've got a few. You guys are the lucky few. Spanish television is the biggest bang for their buck, in my opinion, here in the Valley, because there's only like 2 channels that are decent. Is that right, Jorge?
Yes.
Yeah. I've done a couple ads on Spanish television with one of my agents and some on radio. But if you've got a limited budget, find something that you can do and give it a try. Well, Larry Fawcett, she's done probably 100 transactions off of mostly radio, Hispanic radio, and a number off of the television. Although lately she said the television ads weren't doing as well as she'd hoped. But that's something that you can do, and anybody can do it. And you can create your own video. You can, if you've seen some of the signature lines I've had in the past, it's got a little picture that says "Play Me" and a little triangle that you can click on my signature line on email. And I can actually track how many people will look at that, how many people will go in and click on that video. And you want to keep your video short, so the ideal length for a video is probably 30 seconds. And if you go over 30 seconds, you're going to lose a lot of people. But if you have a message you can see in 30 seconds, that's great. I would say a minute or less is always good, but make sure that the bulk of your message is in the first 30 seconds. So that's really important. And then number 11 is you can target estate sales. Why is an estate sale good? What is an estate sale? Somebody died, right? You guys are all dying, must be running away. But somebody died. When somebody dies, what happens to their property? It goes to probate, and finally, once it's through that, it goes to the heirs, correct? Whoever's there. Now, if you are in Utah, you probably got an average family size of 5 or 6. Typically, when I go talk to somebody who is selling a house in an estate sale, there's anywhere from 4 to 6 heirs, okay? And they're all looking for cash. This is found money. That was grandma's house on the lake, and she loved it and took great care of it, but they don't care. Now it looks like cash to them, okay? So where this is a good thing is you got 5 or 6 people. Let's say the house, well, here's one that we did. We had a house, we met 5 people out there. There was one that didn't come, that was still in Washington State. And they said, Randall, the real estate agent down the street said we could get $150,000 for this property if we would clean it up and redo the kitchen and put some carpet and paint and so on and so forth in there. Now what did I say? Absolutely, you could. You will make more money. How long do you think it will take you to do that? How much money will you spend doing that? And then how long will it be before you sell the property? You know, those are the things. Because obviously that is the way you will make the biggest bang for your buck. And then I said, but I will take this property full of 7 dumpsters full of trash. The guy was 95 and kept everything since the Great Depression in this little house. And got a few dogs that were found in there as well. So I said, we'll take everything. I'll give you $101,000. It's Wednesday, we can close by Friday. It took 5 minutes to talk it over and said, we'll do it. And that's not happened one time, that's happened multiple times. If you've got 6 people, $5,000, but it's found money. It's not something they worked hard for or earned or anything else. It's something that's came to them out of the blue. And they want it now. They don't want it maybe in 6 months. So to lower the price by $30,000, that means that everybody's getting $5 grand less, but they're getting it now instead of, months later. It's a no-brainer. So if you know somebody who has an estate or an estate sale, you can do searches for estate sales or look for those. That is a very good way to find property as well. Estate sales are exceptionally good. All right, well, it's the end of the meeting. It looks like we ran over, and
1 minute. Do you mind explaining more about this seminar in January? Seminar
in January, real quick. All right, 30 seconds. My elevator speech. Yeah, seminar.